Hello everyone, it's Mr. Punquist from Heavy Bound, and I've made a lot of stupid videos on this channel over the years, and sadly this is another one of those, so viewer discretion is advised. We're gonna go to some spinfoily territory over here. But anyways, at the time of making this, I have just completed my first run through the remastered Vault class. And if you saw our thoughts video, you know that I made it out with some beautiful new, or I guess old, weapons. I got a Vision of Confluence, an amazingly rolled Corrective Measure, and a Fatebringer. However, the roll I got on this Fatebringer is what really got me thinking. I got one with Opening Shot, which is pretty bland, and Osmosis. And it's not a crazy roll. I wasn't really exactly psyched about getting this, until I realized that with Osmosis, I could basically have an Arc Fatebringer again. So I ran some strikes with it just for, goofs and nostalgia, and I had a pretty good time. It forced me to play differently. I basically never stowed my Fatebringer until I had a grenade ready, but it was still really fun to see my primary demolish a captain just like old times. But the more I used it, the less I liked the roll. The best part of the Fatebringer for me back in the day was the Firefly explosion. I mean, the arc damage is basically just a passive bonus. So I do believe I'll eventually shard this roll once I get one with Firefly, but this whole time I was just thinking about how much I miss elemental primaries. I know we technically have them since the weapon types aren't stuck to kinetic, special, or heavy anymore, but there's something satisfying about seeing all three elements lined up in your UI at the bottom of your weapon screen. And that's where my dumb idea finally comes in. So what if Osmosis was an intrinsic perk to raid weapons? It would allow a balanced, on paper of course, return of elemental kinetic weapons, and maybe bring back some uniqueness to raid weapons again. That way you could potentially have a Recombination Reconstruction Arc Heritage, or maybe a Void Secession, or maybe even going further back you could have like a Solar Sacred Provenance. It wouldn't drastically change the weapons, but it would help me at least want to use the weapons more past the post-raid hype. I believe though that if raid weapons were granted Osmosis, it should work differently to the regular perk. Osmosis would still stay in the perk pools obviously, but something like it would be given to raid weapons. I was thinking this raid Osmosis, aka Diffusion, would work with any elemental damage. That means melee supers and grenades. That way you can constantly have your weapon be elemental. Or maybe something like, once you set the damage type using a grenade, it stays for a set amount of time as opposed to only when you start your weapons. Although I can see that one being bad personally, because that's just another buff you have to keep track of on the left side of your screen. No matter what though, it needs to be different to regular Osmosis, or else the intrinsic nature won't feel as special. Like I remember how cool and like MMO-y it felt back in D1 to see weapons that had specific perks that would help make raids easier. And for someone coming from COD, that was like insane to me. It was even better when we got perks that not only would help in the raid, but were also just plain good. I mean, auto-loading holster on some of the weapons with the slowest reload? Fucking sign me up. Extra damage to Fallen and Hive? I'll take 5. I feel like Osmosis, Elemental Assimilation, could fit the role that those perks had, aka unique attributes but not game-breaking levels of good. In the grand scheme of Destiny, bringing back intrinsic perks for raid weapons should be on the bottom of Bungie's list, but it's something I've been thinking about since Leviathan, and I've only now realized what perk would be perfect for the job, or perfect. Elemental Assimilation would be a perfect addition to that lineup, even though it would only really be useful for kinetic raid weapons, so the elemental ones would need different intrinsic perks, and then it wouldn't necessarily be intrinsic anymore. I may not have thunk this fully through, but I still believe it's a good idea. Just maybe someone smarter than me can figure out the logistics of messing with elemental weapons, maybe changing their types as well. I don't know. Anyways, this is Mr. Punquist from Heavy Bound, signing out. I'll see you guys next time.